Welcome to Roadtex, an Echo company. We're a nationwide leader in temperature-controlled LTL transportation and warehousing services spanning the entire shipping lifecycle. Matter of fact, we're one of the only temperature-controlled providers with food-grade warehouses that offer retail consolidation solutions. Leveraging our advanced technology and extensive network, we simplify shipping for clients.
Welcome to the Stockouts. This is your show at FreightWaves for all things related to the CPG and retail industries and their logistics and supply chains. Mike Baudendistel here from FreightWaves Sonar, joined by Grace Sharkey. And Grace, we figured this would be an interesting past week, and it was one.
Yeah, I think we called it on the last episode that hopefully the next time we were on air that things were solved. And I mean, you could make that argument, right? Like it's not 100%, but we're on our way and back on track.
Yeah, we're getting there. So we'll talk about who we think sort of the winners and losers are. That should be fun here in a minute. And then it'll also be fun. We'll have on a special guest, Amir Hoss, founder and CEO of EAGLE AI, spelled EAIGLE, if you're going to Google that just to see their page. So we'll do those things. And first, want to just make sure everyone knows how to sign up for the Stockout newsletter. You can do that at www.freightwaves.com/the Stockout, or just go to the site up at the top, newsletters, right under supply chains. You'll find that. And another thing that you can find on the site is the link to register for our conference, which takes place the week before Thanksgiving in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Great time to visit Tennessee. Go to the FreightWaves F3 site, and then you can use a special discount code for listeners of this show. And that discount code is F3 Stockout 24. So type in F3 Stockout 24. You'll get a nice discount. Be great to interact with all the people there. And it'll hopefully be just far enough removed from the election that we won't talk about nothing but the election. Usually it's the first week in November, but it's not going to be this week. It's going to be the week right before Thanksgiving. And we announced that Stone Temple Pilots will be performing. That how amazing is that? Maybe with the one caveat that Scott Weiland, the original singer, died about 9 years ago. But should be a great time. So with that, really go ahead.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm a good group, I think, to have there. It's going to be at a new venue as well. So a nice fresh take at F3, and then a lot of fun guests as well. So yeah, go to live.freightwaves.com to go check that out. Make sure you use that discount code as well.
Yeah, so be sure to do that. And with that, I think we'll talk about sort of the topic of the hour. It seems like everyone's talking about the port strike. We have lots of good coverage up on the site. Stuart Charles is on top of this. Seems like he publishes about 5 articles a day on this, coming at it from every which angle. We also have good art from Jim Allen, who lives in Houston and can easily go there and take pictures of people striking or not, as it turns out today. So we're recording this one business day ahead of when it's actually going live. I'm doing some on Friday, so there's developments over the weekends. We might have missed those, but basically what happened is late Thursday, the parties agreed to a 61% increase. The employers at USMX, that represents the container ship lines, they sweetened the deal, went from 50% to 61% over the 6-year period, or $4 increase in per hourly wage each year for 6 years. The parties had been sort of deadlocked at $3 and $5 respectively. And so this extends the master agreement to January 15th of next year. Does sort of seems like it settles the wage issue. There's still some outstanding issues related to automation, which the union wants none of. And then reportedly, there was a meeting that sort of struck this up on Thursday, where Biden administration officials, including Pete Buttigieg, were pressuring the carriers to sweeten the deal, or to make it so they could come to an agreement sort of right away. And another thing that we talked about up on the site was the move that Ron DeSantis made, which I guess my opinion is I thought it made him seem pretty strong, actually. So DeSantis puts out this tweet, did a press conference, and he ordered the Florida National Guard to the ports to maintain order, to quote, maintain order where possible, and where possible resume operations where the ports were shut down, saying that the distribution of food, equipment, and supplies at the Southeast United States recovering from Hurricane Helene is unacceptable, sort of disrupting that distribution, and said, unlike the federal government, Florida is taking decisive action to ensure that our economy continues to function and that the victims of Hurricane Helene will have access to what they need to rebuild. So I thought that was an interesting development, really more of a political move, as it turns out, than something of substance, given the timing of everything. But I want to ask you, Grace, I'll go through a few people here, a few people or groups, and I want you to tell me whether these were winners in this situation or losers in this situation. I'll start with maybe an easy one, the Biden-Harris administration.
I think winners, in particular, not having to intervene and clearly intervening at the right time, it sounds like. It's not going to be a huge October surprise. That's going to, I think, truly affect the election. They played their cards right. They, showed themselves as heroes of labor, but also didn't put themselves too much in the ray of maybe slowing things down, including the economy. So I think they were strategic about it and got out in a positive manner as well, and then have plenty of time into past election season into next year to hopefully figure out the automation aspect of this as well.
I agree. It could have been a disaster, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
What do you think about the union workers themselves?
Clearly, I think in terms of getting the pay aspect, winners, of course. The fact that they're still getting a chance to talk about automation, I think, is huge as well. I saw a little bit of talks. I'm more on social media sites, so I don't want to take it too much as a good source, that the big problem with them is the language behind the automation. So I think we're looking at a better description of the semi-automated versus fully automated aspect. We might see some definition changes in that in the new contract. I think another big part that they had really pushed on the automation side was that there's studies done that showcase whether or not these jobs will be affected or not. And besides one I was able to find that wasn't related to this aspect in particular, I think hopefully over the next couple of months, the government can try to make up for that and look into that study and get back to them on the question of automation and jobs being lost. So I would say a win so far, and the fact that the automation aspect is still on the table is probably likely a win in the future too.
So the study said that it would not impact the jobs?
So the study was a focus on just overall automation across multiple industries, and did showcase that depending on how you implement the job, like training, upskilling, etc., how it could affect workers as well. And so it was, I don't want to say 50-50, leaning more towards jobs would actually be created, but that survey wasn't focused on port jobs in particular. So I'm hoping that maybe over the next couple months we get some data behind that and the government does follow through on that per the request of the ILA. But there hasn't been any study, again, focused on the port jobs in particular and automation there.
Yeah, just as we're recording this Friday morning, Stuart Charles put up an article that talked about how it's not just, lots has been made about how the U.S. ports are the least efficient in the world. And It's not just about the lack of automation, and maybe it's partially about that. But in order to really bring it up to speed, maybe you would need a rethink of how the land is being used, or sort of redesign the entire terminals. But sort of a lot needs to go in there. What about the U.S. public? Winners or losers?
Well, I guess winners, right? In the way that they fortunately can be able to get their goods. I don't think there was going to be that big of issues in regards to how long this would have lasted anyway. So I guess positive. But again, it's tough because I think I think the way that the U.S. public took this situation wasn't positive. So maybe on the loser side, I would put the ILA's PR team and how it reached out and tried to connect with the U.S. public. I think the seeing a strong man with Cartier glasses and gold chains and a Rolex, I'm pretty sure, on him as well, saying, I will cripple you, isn't the best way to convince people that you have the all American spirit behind you as well. I think that maybe if we took a little bit of the jewelry off, it would have came off a little bit better. But I don't think they won over the average American as much as I think they thought they would initially, and I think that's what kind of crippled them clearly in these talks to come to this quick agreement and this extension as well.
Yeah, I mean, they got most of what they want, which is usually what you want in a negotiation. But I agree with you that I think the public was on their side first until they realized sort of how much they actually made. And then also some of this rhetoric that I'm going to cripple you, I'm going to hold the whole economy hostage. It almost seems like something a terrorist would say, and it's not the typical argument for making more money, which is that's the supply and demand of what my skills are. It wasn't that argument at all. And I actually thought that's really, if there is a reason why you would want to have automation, it would be to eliminate that risk of an overzealous union leader trying to cripple the economy. I'm like, you're right, you can't cripple the economy. Maybe that's why machines should do it, so they can't strike.
Well, and think of the average American, how much they're seeing automation within their own job, and to say you have a right specifically to not see any of that, I think is unfair in particular. So
it does seem anachronistic in this day and age to rail against machines and automation. So with that, why don't we intro the next guest?
Yeah, of course. So actually a new guest to the show as well, Amir Hoss, the founder and CEO of EAGLE AI. Amir, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Grace, Mike, good to see you both, and thanks for having me.
I love this shot too, because we're going to get into the environment that you're in right now as well. But before we do that, let's introduce the audience. Tell us a little bit about EAGLE and the services that you provide as well.
No, absolutely, and I think this is a very, very, very timely conversation as we are going through the post-strike phase for the ports in the U.S. So EAGLE is the leading company that provides AI and computer vision in logistic facilities, specifically logistic yards. We at EAGLE bring an unprecedented level of efficiency, automation, security, and real-time visibility, not just at the operation of the yard, but also at the gate and in the loading dock. We are very excited to be leading and being the first company that provides this real and smart way of operating yard end to end in North America for the first time, and leading the way. The solution being originally developed a few years back in collaboration with one of the Fortune 50 retailers in North America. So it's been perfected, evolved, and being deployed across North America and across different verticals, including retail, CPG, manufacturing, transportation, and logistic companies.
It's really cool to see you out at a customer site in the middle of servicing them. Can you talk just a little bit? You don't say who the customer is, but just sort of say kind of in general what type of industry they're in and how you're helping them, what you're working on today.
Absolutely. So right now I happen to be in Toronto in one of the CPG customers that we have. That obviously it's a distribution facility that transport products between the manufacturing and retailers. So whether it's direct delivery to stores or to the retailer distribution center, or coming from a manufacturing site, that's all happening in here and getting consolidated. One of the high traffic sites, and different type of unit obviously is more reefer unit and refrigerated products are coming, but you have different type of traffic coming in. And this is a great example of automation bringing real efficiency from the gate to loading dock and vice versa, and not just within that CPG facility, but across the network of that CPG and retailer and suppliers of that CPG. I think this is a great example of the technology that we're talking about, to really say that, hey, it's not something that is coming in future. It's something that exists now. It's been deployed, tested across North America, and customers are using it and really seeing the tangible impact in their bottom line and P&L.
Well, that technology is what I want to dive into right now. So your big bet is on the computer vision, AI in particular. And can you explain to our audience who might not be familiar what exactly that technology is, how it's using, images, et cetera, and what key challenges it's helping with yard operations?
Absolutely. So the technology is 100% based on optical, regular security cameras. The solution is a software solution that leverage existing security cameras that all these logistic facilities have. There is like abundance of cameras in the yard, at the gate, at the loading dock that can be leveraged for this purpose. And so it's a EAGLE's proprietary optical character recognition, or OCR technology, and tracking and detection of all these heavy vehicles and assets that coming into the facility. And for the technology enables that existing camera to collect all those unique IDs from that vehicle, including the US DOT, trailer number, physical damages, logo, any other information that the customer SOP requires for the registration, check-in, and validation of not just that vehicle itself, but also the load in terms of DOL, PO number, captures all the information in real time, validate that against customer yard management system or warehouse management system or transportation management system. So there is a real-time back and forth between all the ERP players in that operation to constantly validate all the inbound and outbound. And then eventually navigating the driver to the designated spot, whether it's a zone within the yard or whether it's a parking spot or loading dock, to reduce the congestion and optimize the operation. We summarize really the benefit to the yard operation and the benefits of this optimization into 4 categories. The significant time that we are saving, not just on the driver's side, but also on the security side and the shunters. A process that used to take 5 to 20 minutes per every transaction, per every inbound and outbound, now it's taking 15 seconds, 8 seconds, 25 seconds. So we're talking about now seconds now. The existing labor is now very optimized. So, and this is what really, that's why I said it's very timely, because at the end of the day, AI is not going to replace the human. It's going to augment their work and make their operation optimal, and have them to work on more important tasks during the day-to-day operation. So if a shunter used to make 4 moves an hour, now they can do 8. Now they can double that. If a security guard could check in 150 trucks a day, now they can do 250 trucks a day. So you are seeing an unprecedented efficiency during this whole process in all aspects of the operation. You're talking about claims. So the claim processing, especially between our retailers and CPG, are a bottleneck in the industry. And so how we are optimizing that claim processing by bringing sort of our evidence-based check-in and check-out process, as well as compliance. So you have ISR compliance through the WARE program in the SoCal area in California. You have CTPAT in the US, you have PIP program in Canada. These are all the programs that all these facilities need to be, or moving toward to be compliant. And so this technology is helping them in the path of that compliancy and expediting that process.
Yeah, it's easy to see how this would streamline someone's operations, keep carriers moving, all those things. does it leverage the security cameras that the facility already has in place, or do they have to install sort of special sensors? And I think you said there was a component there that was proprietary. Is that the sort of the software algorithm that's monitoring what's being seen? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Great question, Mike. No, these are existing security cameras. There is nothing proprietary in any hardware involved in this process. In fact, these are very low-cost cameras, probably less than $1,000, $1,500 each. And they are a typical standard cameras that the facility has for security purpose. We are just adding another application on that existing hardware besides security to run the software. Obviously, the software is proprietary element, and the whole algorithm is proprietary, but there's nothing on the hardware. And the whole value of these algorithms are that they leverage existing hardware, because we saw the adoption in the industry, and we all seen that to RFID or any hardware-based asset tracking solution. And so they all had a scalability issue. They couldn't scale. And the industry did not adopt to those technology to the extent that was originally forecasted. And it's not just from customer perspective, but also from all the ERP perspective of YMSs as well. And so the value of this technology is that it's not hardware-based, it's purely software based on existing hardware that is part of infrastructure of that warehouse or facility.
You know, it's interesting too, because part of the reason that we initially talked is because you've recently started an alliance, and we've seen this across yard scheduling services, et cetera, where of course companies are coming together to make sure that this technology is deployable and quickly. Can you tell us why it was important for you to start the Yard AI Alliance in particular, and what inspired you behind that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a very important question. So over the past 15 years, as we observe evolution of the yard operation, obviously we're seeing that YMSs came to the picture, and they helped a lot with automating certain processes within the yard. But it's still, to a large extent, manual processes left to update the YMS. But YMSs played a key role, and they still do in partial optimization of the yard and putting an order, or at least an initial order, in place. Now that that's order in place, the next phase of that YMS evolution is to optimize that order. And that optimization initially was partially done by RFID tagging or other sensor-based technologies. However, given the scalability issues and high operating cost of those sensors and infrastructure that's required, it did not scale. And so industry did not adopt. And it not only scaled, but it also didn't help with adoption of YMSs, because customer did not see the saving or the efficiency that they've been expecting from a regular YMS. And so the real inspiration behind this was to not only help the customer to bring a real automation and efficiency, but also to enable the YMSs to deliver the actual value that they're supposed to deliver, make them fully automated, and also help the industry to adopt the YMSs, because now you are getting an automated and a smart YMS, as opposed to a manual YMS that was at the mercy of the security team and dispatch office and transportation office to do that. Now, when it comes to AI Alliance that we created between the YMSs, is that, okay, all this YMS has been in place for the last decade or more. They've been working extraordinarily successful, but it's still the adoption left, number one. Number two, they're obviously working in silo as well. And so we, as the leader of bringing the computer vision into the game and whole new sort of RFID replacement in the industry, we thought, as we are leading this, there is a need for a standardization. There is a need for all these YMSs to talk together, especially we're talking about multinational companies that are deploying different YMSs, not just across the US, but across the globe. So that is standardization, that real-time conversation between the YMS and any other player in the market have to happen. And so we thought this is much, much needed and overdue in the industry to be happen. And we are happy to be leading that initiative. And as the leader, we also welcome any other second mover and newcomer to the industry to be part of that alliance as well in the computer vision space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned on your site you also have products related to pallets or valid pallet. It looks like the title. How is it any similar or different when you're dealing with individual pallets versus what was just described with the truckloads coming to the yards?
Great question, Mike. So the gap that we saw in the industry and the gap that really YMS has been solving or trying to solve was what's happening between the gate and the loading dock. And so the gate and loading dock really has three individual problems to be solved. The automation problem at the gate itself that requires the automated check-in and check-out of the heavy truck and vehicles coming in and out. You have the problem in the yard that you have to optimize the move and make it more efficient and do a proper scheduling. And then you have the actual event that's happening at the loading dock, and that's the actual event of loading and unloading. And so really, the full automation happens that, hey, when the pallet or that load touches the ground inside the warehouse, at that point, the whole operation in the gate and the yard are automated. Because you want to make sure that the actual proof of delivery happened, the pallet is on the ground, and it's been handed over to the warehouse management system. And so that's where we believe the true automation happens. And so that's why we also leverage the cameras at the loading dock or inside the facility to monitor the loading dock and monitor the event of loading and unloading and provide a proof of fully unloading happen and fully loading happen to the YMS and to the WMS. And so that really filling the true gap between the TMS and the WMS, or the gate and the loading.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I think I lost your voice.
There we go. Sorry, you can hear me now. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us this morning, and of course being on site and giving us an idea of exactly how this is working. For all those out there looking to learn more, head to EAIGLE.com, which is EAIGLE.com. And unfortunately, we're out of time, but make sure head to FreightWaves.com, join our community as well. Head to live.freightwaves.com to learn more about F3. Until then, we will be with you again next week.